All right, people, we are getting ready to start this political debate. So let me share the screen over to the Discord server, and we can get ready to get started. All right, we are all here prepared for this debate. So I think it's going to be exciting. Rexus will be our moderator, so take it away, Rexus.
Hello, everyone. Nomadic Cole will be representing RFK, and dogelord will be representing.
I think your mic may have cut out for a second about who dogelord is representing.
Yeah.
Okay.
My mic is kind of weird.
Well, dogelord will be representing former President Donald J. Trump. And Rexus, can you shout out our channels?
Oh yeah, I already did with the community post.
Okay, so guys, make sure you guys subscribe to Dr. Dogelord. Is it TMG or TGM?
It's TMG.
TMG, Dr. Dogelord, TMG on YouTube.
Yeah, and like a side note, the TMG was supposed to stand for like the mobile gamer, because like that was what I was gonna do, but then I realized that like most of screen recording apps off like the Google Play Store are like so crappy in quality, you might as well just not use them. So I just kind of abandoned the whole idea. But the abbreviation is still there.
Right. And my channel is Nomadic Cole. If you guys are watching this, then you're probably watching on the Nomadic Cole YouTube channel. And be sure you guys leave a like, leave a comment, share, and of course, subscribe for more epic, cool, awesome, funny content and debates similar to this one right here, right now on the Nomadic Cole YouTube channel.
And my channel is Knocked Crawlin.
Okay. And make sure you guys give him a like, and of course, subscribe and a share as well to his content as well. He's got some very interesting content as well. Well, let's get started. Would you like to open, dogelord, or can I open? And Rexus, when we do our opening, I know this is your first time moderating a debate, so make sure you timing our openings.
Okay.
Would you like to start, dogelord, or would you like me to open?
I think I would like you to open.
Okay. You ready to time, Rexus?
Oh yeah. So probably 30 or 40 minutes.
Yeah.
I don't know. This is my first time.
Well, 3 minutes for openings.
3 minutes.
Yes, for openings. Okay. Well, I think we are here to solve the discussion between who is more fit to be the president of the United States. Is it Donald J. Trump, or is it RFK Jr.? I think we can all agree and dismiss that Joe Biden is not fit to be the president based off of various reasons. However, this debate is not about Joe Biden. This debate is about the other two. So, why should Bobby Kennedy Jr. be president? Well, I have 3 reasons why I believe that RFK Jr. will make a good president. Reason number 1, he wishes to restore civil liberties. Under the Donald Trump administration, civil liberties, he made a point to talk about civil liberties, such as free speech and the Second Amendment. However, when it came to policy, it didn't seem like these came to fruition, actually. In fact, under Operation Warp Speed, we saw more censorship than ever. That is where RFK Jr. challenges Donald J. Trump. It's one of the issues.
And let us not forget bump stocks.
What's that?
And let us not forget bump stocks.
What was that? Sorry.
Bump stocks.
Bump stocks.
On guns.
Well, I was going to talk about that, but as moderator, you're not supposed to butt into the conversation.
Oh, shit.
But it's okay. But as well as bump stocks, there was the bump stop executive order that Donald Trump signed as well, which was an infringement on the Second Amendment, depending on who you ask. So with that in mind, Donald Trump didn't keep his promise on restoring civil liberties. Another reason why RFK Jr., I believe, will make a good president is because of the way that he will handle the economy. RFK Jr. has been adamant about wanting to make it a free market. Under the current system in America, we do not have free market capitalism. We have corporate crony capitalism. And Donald Trump's policies did not reflect free market capitalism, but as a matter of fact, only helped further corporate crony capitalism with his theories of trickle-down economics, very reminiscent of Reaganomics back in the 1980s. Good for short-term economic growth, but in the long term, these gains tend to fizzle out. And that is mostly because the corporations that are having tax cuts put on them instead take those tax cuts and don't reinvest it back into their corporation, but pocket the cash that they're getting. When that happens, you might see higher stock prices and you might see billionaires get even more rich, but the jobs that are given back to the economy that are in theory supposed to be given back under trickle-down economics don't usually happen to be great jobs, and they happen to be minimum wage jobs that are easily replaceable in the market. And lastly, the reason why RFK Jr. would make a very good president as opposed to Donald Trump is because of environmental issues. Donald Trump was very poor at environmental issues. In fact, he made George W. Bush look like Captain Planet. He wanted to increase the oil wells in the Gulf of Mexico and Alaska and continue to build the Keystone Pipeline, which were, as a matter of fact, oftentimes very controversial. And oftentimes, as much as the oil companies would like to tell you that they are being safe with their oil drilling practices, oftentimes they are overlooked and they could be handled with more OSHA regulation. Under the RFK Jr. Presidency, if it were to happen, then it is very likely that we would see a mixed economy. As a matter of fact, we'd also see our own oil reserves being used, which is what he has voiced as well. Something which Donald Trump didn't really use as much, and instead he exported our oil while importing foreign oil. But also under our RFK Jr. presidency, you'd also see innovations in environmental friendly energy sources. You'd see more wind and more solar, and these, going back to the last point, would be allowed to compete on a free market. And that is why I believe that RFK Jr. would make a better president than President Donald Trump.
Okay, so should I go?
Yes.
Yeah.
You can make your opening.
Okay. All right. So, back in 2016, we were in a very, very troublesome placement. on one hand, you had what was her name? I forgot her name because it's been so long. But oh yeah, yes, you had Hillary,
Hillary.
and and it was either her or it was Trump. And of course, one side is extremely worse compared to the other. So, if you ask me, we didn't really have very much of a choice that time. It is also good to mention that a lot of people here are still very, very invested in the whole two-party thing. Like, a lot of people just don't pay attention to the independents. So the way that a lot of people see it back then, and especially now, was that we don't really have very much of a choice. It's either him, which, again, not a perfect choice, but it's better. And we already know that depending on how things turn out, I think, although I might be misremembering here, I think Biden may or may not be running for re-election. But if he does, you already know how that's going to turn out. People, like, it's a matter of almost inevitability, because it's either one or the other. That's how a lot of people see it. And RFK is just pushed to the sideline because a lot of people, first of all, don't even know that he exists. For one point, like, no offense to him, but like, you got to push hard, very, very hard, in order to even be noticed, because of just how deeply enthralled we are with the two-party thing. Like, when you're running it as independent, you're basically just throwing yourself out there as your own figure, and that just doesn't really work here compared to other countries like, say, Germany, where there's like 9 different political parties. But it's weird, but that's how it tends to turn out. And I'm sorry, and another thing is that he convinced a lot of people back in 2016, and most of those people have stuck with him. So it's a matter of not if he is the better option, because in a lot of people's eyes right now, he is almost certainly the better option this cycle. Now, if he does, get in again, the next cycle, first of all, he won't be able to run a third time. There's a big rule of the no third term thing. But even if he was able to, say we get someone better than him in that election cycle, great. We can cycle him out, and we can continue from there. But that is if we even get a good opposing candidate whatsoever.
Yes. I do understand your point. Is that the end of your opening?
Just about, really. I mean, like I'll be honest, I'm not very good at this kind of thing. Like if you're watching the stream right now, I wasn't meant to actually be here. I'm actually standing in for someone else who wasn't able to turn up today.
Yeah.
So
because it was a coward.
Yeah.
Perhaps cowardice. Yes, but he is a stand-in. So unfortunately, he might not have the same points that maybe the last person who was going to debate me was going to make. But I will make a rebuttal against your last point. So, in summary, your last point, Dr. Dogelord, is saying that you believe that we should vote for Donald Trump because he is more well known. Well, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is from the notorious and, well, not notorious, but famous, I guess you could say infamous in some ways, in the way that how some of their members have been assassinated, but the famous Kennedy legacy. This name appeals to a wide and large portion of voters. And with his name on the ballot, I do in fact believe that there's a big chance that many people could even potentially vote for him just on name recognition alone. So having a name recognition factor doesn't seem to be as big of a misstep as many political strategists feel that it may be, because there is a lot of people who still do remember the Kennedys. Another thing as well is that RFK Jr. has actually built himself quite a large fan base, especially over not only the course of his lifetime, but just on this campaign alone. In fact, his campaign has the most grassroots volunteers of any political campaign going on right now. He's got more than both Trump and Joe Biden. Now, I will agree with you. Joe Biden is not a great choice. And as I said earlier, I still, if it was a two-way race only between Donald Trump and Joe Biden, I would vote for Donald Trump. However, we have the third option to vote for RFK Jr., and I believe that he is superior in many qualities as well. Now, I think as well, you were also, you mostly hit on name recognition, but I did want to bring up about how you believe that third parties are at a disadvantage. And it is true, third parties are at a disadvantage in this political system. However, it does not mean that there aren't states that RFK Jr. can win, and there is a pathway to victory for him. Those states that he can win, especially looking at states like Alaska, which have a ranked choice voting system, and Maine, which have congressional districts. Even Nebraska may be a factor as well. And many people also are sleeping on Nevada and Hawaii as potential states to win. But the point is that RFK Jr. can take this election to what we call a contingent election, which is when one representative of every single state has to elect the president, and a senator from every state has to elect the vice president. Now, in today's extremely and heavily divided times, we all know that any Republican worth his soul in Congress is not going to vote for Joe Biden, and any Democrat is not going to vote for Donald Trump. And with just 3 electoral votes, essentially just winning Alaska off of a ranked choice vote, or maybe winning Hawaii, for example. Just 3 electoral votes is all it takes to take it to a contingent election. And I believe that in a contingent election, that there's going to be a need for a compromise candidate. And with RFK Jr., if he wins electoral votes and gets those 3 that are needed to take it to a contingent election, he could be that compromise candidate and could, in essence, by default, win the election. That is my rebuttal.
All right. Well, you actually do make a very, very good point there. But now, correct me if I'm wrong on this, because this is coming from second person, like, information. But someone told me a while ago, for privacy reasons, I will not state exactly whom, but he did state that Hawaii has a tendency to be extremely, like, Democrat-leaning, at least historically speaking, like recent history.
That's why I'm not even solidifying any state to be for any candidate to win. But I have seen the grassroots effort here in Hawaii, and it was one of the first states that Kennedy got on the ballot of. There is a large amount of people that are also dissatisfied with Joe Biden's performance, even in this extremely liberal state, especially with what happened in Lahaina. It is entirely possible that a Hawaii win is not off the table.
Not to mention how the government reacted to that whole island catching on fire a while ago.
The Lahaina fire. The government did its job at that, and it is very likely, and I do expect that we will see lots of changes in leadership, at least at the local level, but potentially Hawaii as a whole could vote different, because this is a major event that a lot of people care about, that is still fresh in people's minds. The news cycles may have forgotten about it, but it is still an issue that a lot of people care about, and people still talk about to this day around the islands. And it's a lot of people, because not everybody in this state, not very many people in the state really want Trump, because this isn't a very pro-Trump state. But people are dissatisfied with Biden, and that may mean that RFK Jr., especially since he appeals to a lot of these people who are anti-federal government and pro-environmentalist and hippies and whatnot, may vote that way.
Yeah. And there is a good chance for him. But and you mentioned earlier how the news cycles have kind of forgotten about that whole ordeal. And that's another factor, the news is going to be heavily, heavily against anyone who isn't, strictly Democrat or Republican,
Well, they already
because again, it's a third party it's coming from.
They already are, but the news also, there's news sources that talk about him in a bad light, but I've also seen a lot of local news sources that just break up his campaign in general. He's always on podcasts, and that is extremely popular with the young vote. And there's the word of mouth and the tabling that is going on. In fact, tomorrow I'm actually going to a tabling event to volunteer for the campaign at a local farmers market. And, we do expect that we might see, quite a few people who will be interested in joining this, I guess you'd say, coalition of people to go and vote for Kennedy together.
Yeah. It's it is highly possible that he can actually get somewhere, either with the contingent or with the traditional way, although the traditional way is going to be extremely hard fought if it can even manage to do it at all. Because again, I'm not trying to downplay him or anything, because you do have a lot of good points here, but it is going to be very, very hard, because there's almost everything against him except for name recognition and also the whole local popularity thing.
Well, I think nobody even on the campaign is making the claim that this isn't an uphill battle. But so far he's polling the best as any third party candidate has since Ross Perot. Last I checked, a lot of Nader's Raiders, or Ralph Nader's fan base as well, still exist, and likely are also fans of this RFK Jr. campaign. So, and we can't really make any full decisions right now. We can look at the polling data, and we can see that Kennedy is doing extremely well for a third-party candidate, especially given how little the media pays attention to third-party candidates. We saw what they did in 2016 with Gary Johnson and Jill Stein, who essentially split they split a third-party vote with each other. We saw what happened in 2020 with Joe Jorgensen, who got essentially really no media coverage. Nobody even cared about what was going on over there. But you see the other third-party candidates now. You see Cornel West and Jill Stein. Jill Stein once ran and once was popular, but isn't as popular anymore. I think that third-party vote, eventually people are probably going to realize that Cornel West and Jill Stein's campaigns aren't going anywhere, and that may also tack on to his percentage as well. So I think it is possible that he can win. I'm not going to state any states that he will win because it's just not a guarantee. Two-party system is definitely rigged against third parties, unfortunately. But here's the thing. You'll never defeat this third-party system unless we go out and vote and we tell them that, hey, we want a multi-party system. We want someone else. And with 52% of Americans registered as independent this election, the most of any election in history, and with, I believe, about 70% of the American population saying they don't want either Joe Biden or Donald Trump for president, despite that Donald Trump has his very strong fan base, and that Joe Biden, of course, he has the blue anon, vote blue no matter who people. But aside from that, with 52% of the American populace registered or self-proclaiming as independents, this is a good and positive position for the Kennedy campaign.
Yeah, it is a very, very good spot. But I want to see how the senators themselves react to such a thing, because you do know the whole electoral college thing. The popularity, the popular vote doesn't exactly matter, although it is definitely a factor. What really matters is how many big cities you can rope in, because that means you get more senators for the electoral college. So
you mean more electorates is what you're saying.
Yeah. That's the word. That's the word I was just looking for.
Yes.
So, however, it may play out to where he wins a lot of smaller places, because of the whole widespread 50, what'd you say, 53% ish.
52% of Americans registered as independents.
Exactly. Now, that may sound like a very, very big percentage, but you also have to realize that that is 52% spread all across this nation. So there is naturally going to be it's basically a roll of the dice as to, whether the majority of that is actually in major important places or just out in the middle of nowhere,
Right. But I do think that it really is a spread out around the entire nation, which is a good thing. And with the most volunteers of any presidential campaign, at least running this election, then it is very likely that word will spread to others. I mean, there are people who I've met who never heard of Kennedy, and I hand them one of these. I have one on my desk back there, but one of these little Kennedy cards. When I go and take the bus down into town, I hand these out to people. Sometimes people notice my hat that I wear around, and they'll ask questions and whatnot. And so far, it's only been positive. And in that case, I think that I'm very optimistic that the word will continue to get out. And when people even just see that there's a Kennedy on the ballot, like I said earlier, there's also going to be a tendency to want to be like, hey, Joe Biden's too old. Donald Trump he's mean, or maybe he's corrupt, or whatever people will say about him. And we have a Kennedy on the ballot, and they might vote that way as well. So there's always that possibility.
Yep. Like honestly, I really, and that's another thing too. Like personal experience, I myself haven't actually gone out that much, but from what I've seen here, and again, we live in like completely different, like we live in completely different
State.
situations. So yeah, like I haven't openly asked anyone because it's part of the reason why there's 52% of people voting as like independent now or self-identifying as that. It's because people have politically become strained. They have gotten to the point where they almost don't care anymore for either side. They just want to get it over with. So openly go, like putting out cards or something like that, I just don't really want to do that because there is a tendency to where a lot of people are probably going to get mad at you depending on where you're at.
Well,
But
at least me over here, I haven't had any bad experiences with any of the people, and I don't hand out cards at random. I don't just stand outside and solicit, or stand on the bus and solicit cards to people. But if people ask, then I ask them, well, would you like a Kennedy card to find out more about his policies? And usually they say yes, and they read the policies and they agree with almost everything on the card. I think once people, when people understand what his policies are, when people aren't influenced by what CNN is talking about him, saying that he's a nut or a kook, like a kook or whatever, because they do call him that. They call him an anti-vaccine conspiracy theorist. Once people actually understand his policies, then they will realize that, hey, he's a moderate centrist guy who stands for classical liberal values, and those values are widely agreed on by large swaths of the populace. And I think to the point that you made about the independents, that people are fed up. People are fed up with the two-party system. And we saw what they did. We saw what the Democrats did to Bernie Sanders, and we saw what they did to Tulsi Gabbard. We saw what they did to Ralph Nader. We saw what they did to Ross Perot. And people are really fed up with it. And people just want someone who's speaking the truth, and that person happens to be Kennedy.
Yep. He does have quite a few obstacles in his way, but the biggest obstacle is just eliminating the illusion that people only have a choice of one of the two, when in reality there is actually a third choice. But the thing is that independent as a third choice historically has pretty much never really been noticed at all.
Right. But Kennedy he is running as an independent. However, he is creating his own parties as well. He's not just going to be independent on the ballot, which is what you'll see Cornel West as. Cornel West will actually be a independent on the ballot. Assuming that Cornel West isn't endorsed by another party, for example, the Socialist Party of America, which is a possibility as well. But Kennedy is running with the We the People Party, and that party is really picking up steam in this election. There's a couple other states where he's on different parties. For example, Michigan, he'll be on the Natural Law Party.
Yeah. But but the main issue is that because historically, going that way, even if he is showing up as a different party member of different parties on the ballot in some locations, you do have to realize that is a very, very risky move, because although yes, it does emphasize that, hey, there's a third way here and we can break the illusion that you only have a choice of one or the other. And you know what, that whole card thing that you talked about, that also feeds into it. It's like most people, they don't even know what he's about, because again, the media just doesn't tend to care at all.
Or when
In
they
fact,
do
they're
talk
the main
about
reason.
him, it's usually a smear piece.
Exactly. So it's like you must break the illusion that there's only a choice of one or the other.
Right. And unfortunately, in America's system, it is rigged to be a two-party system. They put a lot of things in the way, a lot of things that I never realized about until this campaign, which I've gotten behind. That I didn't realize independents have to go through a long and arduous and grueling signature process of gathering signatures just to be on the ballot, which they put in place purposely to keep from another Ross Perot situation from happening, which the Republicans believed caused George H.W. Bush Sr. to lose the election to Bill Clinton. And, to prevent another Ralph Nader and the Nader's invaders from potentially costing the election, which is why Democrats blame Ralph Nader for losing, for Al Gore losing to George Bush Jr. And I think that people need to realize you can't blame the third party for taking votes. You need to blame the party that has disaffected its voters for being ineffective, for being unsatisfactory to its voters, that have caused people to stray away from the party, which is what we're seeing a lot on both sides. Like you said people are fed up with both sides of the two-party system. People are fed up with Trump and Joe Biden. People don't like Trump's antics too much, especially moderates. People don't like Joe Biden and how old he is and how sleepy and boring he is and how he articulates his words and his stuttering, for example, is another reason why people really don't like Joe Biden. And that can work in his favor in this election. I absolutely believe it.
Yeah, like also, didn't Biden say the N-word? Like, I'm pretty sure he
I
did.
think he was the last politician to have said the N-word, in front of the camera. He's that old though. He's that old that when he was in politics still, that he was free to say the N-word on camera. That's how old he is.
Yeah. Let's just say that national TV, like broadcast rules, they don't tend to allow that anymore because it reflects badly on the network. Plus, the person saying it in general.
Right.
So, yeah. Anyway, I mean, I'll be honest, you kind of got me sold here. I mean, because there really is, like, we've been, like, this is our chance to basically bounce back from 2016 when, like, we really didn't have, like, any choice in the matter.
Right.
Like, it was
I mean, unless you voted for
either
Gary
Trump
Johnson,
or
I think Gary Johnson would have been great. But then Jill Stein also ran and drove away potential voting base for Gary Johnson.
Yeah.
Hold on, let me bring something up real quick. I have I brought up something real quick. I think before we end this debate, I want to present you with some polling real quick. So I'm going to screen share this over real quick. Hold on. I accidentally put the wrong screen share on, but I will screen share from here to here. And this is polling on here. Can you see it on screen?
Hold up, I'm loading in. Okay, yeah.
So here,
I see it.
this is the polls here that have happened recently. This is a mammoth poll done by 26,000 likely voters across the country. Margin of error is only 0.6%, so it's basically almost zero margin of error. Most polls you'll see only poll about 2,000 or 1,000 people, and they have higher margins of errors of about 4 to 5%. So here is what happens when you have a two-way race, only two people in the race between President Trump and President Biden. You have a Donald Trump victory, 294-44. I think that is pretty expected.
Which is to be expected.
There is a
because
race between Kennedy and Joe Biden. This is if Donald Trump, something happens in these legal trials that Donald Trump was facing, and he gets locked up and something happens, and Kennedy suddenly becomes the front runner. This is a landslide victory. And this is polling done among 26,000 voters of what we would likely see. And then this is Kennedy and Trump. If Joe Biden dies, maybe, or he just drops out and says, "Take it away, Kennedy," which is unlikely, but this is what would happen if Kennedy and Donald Trump would happen. 270 to 268. Kennedy, just by a hair, beats Donald Trump in the close election. So this is basically a message to Democrats, if any Democrats are watching, that only Kennedy can defeat Donald Trump. And also, Kennedy or Donald Trump can defeat Biden, but Kennedy would destroy Biden versus Trump would beat him by a regular margin. Let me stop sharing here. Sorry, can you redo your thing? I accidentally took you off of the screen share for a second. Can you redo?
What?
Just repeat what you were saying.
Okay. Well, so we haven't even really touched on if it's going to be difficult for Kennedy to beat Biden, because Biden, well, and like that website showed there is still about a 0.6% margin of error, but that is very, very small and likely wouldn't change the outcome very much at all. However, Kennedy versus Trump, now that's it gets interesting, because as that map showed there, although Kennedy on paper does win, that is by a very, very, very slim margin, or so it seems, because Trump still has a lot, and I mean a lot, of support in quite a lot of places.
Yeah, well, Donald Trump, I think everybody knows Donald Trump. Donald Trump has a very loyal fan base to him. Okay, he has an extremely loyal fan base. A lot more loyal than the fan base of Joe Biden, because Joe Biden is not as charismatic. Now, there was recently a TMZ poll done as well, which actually asked a two-way race to 55,980 voters. So this was even larger than the Kennedy polls, but this is 55,980 total voters, and it was asking a two-way race. between Donald Trump and RFK Jr. RFK Jr. ended up with 64%, while Donald Trump ended up with only 36. What does this show? I believe it shows that Kennedy appeals way more to moderate Democrats and independents, moderate Republicans, and I would say libertarians as well.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's pretty obvious to see here, even without the use of that website, that, Biden basically doesn't stand a chance at all. But RFK versus Trump, that is where all eyes are most likely going to be looking, because that is the very interesting part,
Yeah, that is why it has been asked recently, and also it's because recently Donald Trump has shown signs that he is worried about Kennedy especially after that TMZ poll came out, and after a poll that said that RFK Jr. may or may not cost Trump a state or two in the election.
Yeah.
So
losing
Donald Trump
just
recently put out a. Sorry to cut you off, but Donald Trump recently put out a hit piece against RFK Jr.'s campaign, saying a lot of factually incorrect information.
Yeah. Also, I just realized, I'm sorry, but is the fan that I have in my room is my mic picking up my fan?
Oh no, it's not.
No, it's not.
It's not.
We're good.
Yeah, because I saw light flashing after I kind of went quiet there, and I thought that was my fan.
Okay, and I have a question for you, dogelord, just before we wrap this up. Do you or do you not like hedge funds? Do you not like BlackRock or Vanguard or hedge funds that are buying up the housing market?
I don't think I'm familiar with that. Sorry.
Okay. Well, in essence,
Like, I do know that the house.
a hedge fund like BlackRock, for example, is this large corporation, this corporate entity, that when a house goes on the market, they tend to swoop in with a cash offer and purchase the houses. After they buy a house, they dramatically boost up the price of cost of the house, often more than the house actually costs. And in the end, this is why we have a housing crisis.
Yeah, because that drives prices up, and it also drives up land values.
Right. Exactly. It's driving up land values. This is why it is basically impossible to afford a house. And this also affects rent prices as well. So if you think that you can just, I'll just get an apartment. Well, guess what? The supply of apartments has decreased because the demand of apartments has increased. This is basic economics 101. But in essence, your rent prices go up as well. Well, anyways, RFK Jr. has spoken out against BlackRock and has decided that he wants to help out Americans by giving new home buyers and teachers who really need the houses as well, because teachers are extremely important for the future of this country, at giving them 3% government-backed mortgages that are tax-free. These will help combat the housing crisis, and it also will stop BlackRock from buying up all these homes. On the other hand,
hold up,
what's that?
So you're talking about BlackRock. I know about that actually. I just couldn't figure out what you were saying because every single time you said the rock part of that sentence, your mic kept on going like.
Oh no, that's
yeah. It's the weird land parties where he at.
That is terrible.
Or at least something like that.
I'm sorry. I apologize.
That's fine.
Well, anyways,
Oh no, it's fine.
can I finish up my point though? If we can finish.
Yes.
Yeah. Now,
I didn't say
anyways,
that.
on the other hand, Donald Trump, well, when he was the age of 69, but still, this is a while ago, Donald Trump actually made investments into BlackRock. These investments were as large as $25 million and $50 million. I don't know about you, but I don't really want a president who wants to invest in the people that are buying up all of our land and then reselling it at a higher than the market value.
Not to mention, isn't BlackRock like? Don't they have some, Chinese connections?
Yes, they have Chinese connections.
Yeah.
That's
So
buying up all the
very,
farmland.
very
You there?
yeah.
Yeah,
I'm here.
go.
It's just yeah. It's like I don't know. It's really tough to say because in a way you kind of are trying to predict something that honestly has over a million factors to it. But I mean, I really do think that it's either Trump or Kennedy, because I mean Biden, we already know that there's absolutely no chance in any universe whatsoever that he's going to win this after the constant beatdown
Right.
that he's given himself.
Yeah, Joe Biden has not done a good job as president. And I know you and me both can agree completely on that.
Yeah.
Well, any closing remarks?
I mean, I guess this is just what happens when people shoot themselves in the foot, not to mention more than once. Someone decides to go the third way, and all of a sudden, hey, wait a minute, the third way is actually a pretty decent choice this time, because like he shot himself in the foot so many times. Biden just ain't even nah. He ain't even there. He's in the clouds half the time. So, yeah.
Well, I'm glad that we could come to this conclusion on this debate. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. And thank you for filling in to be my opponent, Dr. Dogelord. It was an amazing conversation, a very productive one at that as well. And I'm glad that we could really get around to talking about this in a civil manner, because majority of the time you hear political debates, they often turn into yelling and shouting matches, which is what political debates
Just like the
trying to
ones
avoid.
with Comrade Chelsea.
Yeah, like the ones with Comrade Chelsea. And those were
Yeah,
violent.
like
My debating
Yeah.
skills have, I think you guys can tell if you look at the Comrade Chelsea ones in this debate, you'll tell my debating skills have really improved since then.
Yeah, and of course, watching those debates, holy fucking shit! Does he go like, wait?
Yeah,
He's constantly like that.
yeah, constantly. Chelsea definitely did cut me off quite a few times in that debate. And I'm sorry about the couple of times I did
Why
cut you
he
off
needs
here,
to game.
Doge Lord. I'm sorry about the
There's a
couple of
reason
times I cut
why
you off. Those were my bad.
Well, there's a reason why he needs to gamble. You got to know when to hold them.
All right.
When to hold them.
Moderator. You're supposed to be the moderator.
Well, like moderator wants to sing, so we can do that. Don't
Got to know
you
when.
want to shout out your Discord server? Because you said you wanted to do.
Who, me?
No, I was talking to Doge Lord because he said he wanted to shout out.
Dogelord? Oh, yeah.
Yeah, sure. I mean, so right now it's like a bit of an experimental thing, and I've had it in my mind actually for months now, almost a year, before I finally was able to do it. Out of just pure, I got to get this done. I've been talking about this for so long. In fact, like I'm still waiting for some people that I actually know, like to like join the server, because literally the last time I talked to one of them about it was like several weeks ago. So I'm not even too sure if he's even gonna join, because he might have just like uninstalled Discord or something. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, the last guy, the reason
But
that we're, oh, go for it.
yeah, but basically the idea is that, uh, you know, I know quite a few people. So I'm just gonna invite a bunch of people, and I'm basically just gonna create my own little mini army, and we're just gonna go ahead and like play a bunch of games, basically. Like, like we're basically just gonna form our own group and just
Odin a band.
everywhere.
I want to become Odin in a band.
Rexus.
Yeah, but like that's the basic premise. We're just kind of gonna goof around a lot, really, because I mean, I've never like playing with friends is awesome, but I have never managed to like combine every single person that I know to like into one cohesive group, and I want to do that, and that's the basic concept behind it right now.
Yeah, I think it's always good to get all these people together and really, you could build up a solid Discord server. So, we're excited about his Discord server. So feel free to shout it out. What's it called?
Dr.
Uh,
Dogelord's Empire.
Dr. Dogelord.
Yeah.
Give me an invite, man. It's going to be really interesting.
Oh yeah, trust me, I will. Like right now, actually.
All right, all right. I'm glad that we could get this conversation doing that. And Rexus, did you have anything you wanted to say before we head out of here?
Basically, I want to become Odin in a band. And I think Dogelord understands the reference.
Yep. I understand the reference.
Well, it was great having you guys on, and this was a very productive debate. And yeah, that's pretty much all we've got to say. So again, guys, make sure you guys check
Yep.
all of our
Have a good night, everyone.
and go to the
Oh yeah, check out all of our channels and subscribe to them, and of course just share them around if you can. And yeah, have a good night.
yeah. Have a good night, guys. I think he's still fumbling with his mic. Adios. I'm gonna close out the video. 3, 2.